Demon Knights number 16, written by Robert Venditti, art by Bernard Chang. So last issue, the gang broke up. They all went their separate ways. And this issue picks up 30 years later in a random northern town in the Holy Roman Empire. A church has its door knocked upon, and they're like, "Oh, please, sir, let us in. It's freezing out here." And the priest is like, "Of course, my children, come on in." And so he steps his way inside, and wouldn't you know it, it's a pair of vampires. And they get a glimpse that they have murdered literally everybody in the whole town, and they finally made their way here to the priest. And they start attacking the priest, and he's using all of his, like, "Oh, here's the cross, here's other stuff." And he's just like, "That ain't gonna work on me. Don't you know who I am? I'm Cain. I'm the original vampire. I'm older than the Bible itself." And so he kills the priest and has one of his followers drain his blood, saying, "Oh, our journey will be long. Drink up." So a few days later, we're on some random plains, and Horsewoman is trying to outrun some bounty hunters on her horse Maelstrom, which she talks to, and Maelstrom, we can see his talking back. It's all in their heads, but regardless, he's like, "Oh, can you talk to their horses and get them to stop chasing us?" And he's like, "They're not on horses." And we see they're riding armored bison. So they start attacking Horsewoman. They do end up catching up to her and knocking her off her horse, and they hold her captive. And the horse is like, "Hey, you need to break our bond because I'm not going anywhere. Like, I broke my leg, I'm out." And she's like, "Oh, God, you have served me well. Thank you, Maelstrom. You are released." And then they chop off Maelstrom's head and say, "All right, well, that's going to feed our bison and our dogs. Anyway, we're going to bring you in for a bounty." And he's like, "What do you mean a bounty? How do you even know about me?" And he's like, "Oh, got a bounty." So then we cut to the city of Al Wadi, a city in the heart of Spain. And we cut down to the catacombs underneath at the dungeons, where they just throw Horsewoman in, and she's unable to move because she obviously needs a horse to move around. And she hears somebody calling out her name in the dungeon, and she looks over, and she's like, "Oh, was it you? Did you put the bounty on my head?" Turns out it's Exaristos, who's chained to the wall. And I say to the wall very loosely because, as it turns out, she's actually chained to Sir Yiston, who's on the other side of the wall. And they were both caught separately. Apparently they went there when everyone broke up. They went together to a place, but then something happened where they had to end up splitting up like 10 years ago. So turns out that if Exaristos had been breaking off the walls so constantly that now they just chained through the walls to Sir Yiston. So that way, anytime that Exaristos tried to break out again, it would just break Sir Yiston's arms. So yeah. Anyway, they start talking. They're like, "We have no idea what's going on, but we all are managing to come together again. It's like our destiny as demon knights." And then someone shows up outside the dungeons just like, "Hey, are those guys? Get them out of there. What are they doing in there? Oh, you guys messed up big time. We're going to have your heads." And he's like, "Hey, sorry, I'm here. I come from the Caliph. This is all a big misunderstanding. I'm so sorry. Come with me." And they unlock Exaristos, pick up Horsewoman, and Sir Yiston's left on the other side of the wall like, hello? So all three of them make their way into the main chamber, and there's a very rich-looking man standing there, and he's just like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. This was all a misunderstanding." He's like, "Oh, we'll beat the crap out of you." And he's like, "Are you sure? Even an old friend?" And they're like, "Oh, you're Al-Jabir. You got old." And they're like, yeah, I got old. You all have eternal youth. I'm just a guy, and I got old in 30 years. And they point out that he's in charge of this whole city, which has such technological marvels. They literally have hot air balloons. And he's like, "Yes, I thought of it. Don't you ever think it's strange that smoke rises, but cold air stays low?" And it's like, "No." He's like, "Well, I did, and I made that." So anyway, they talk about it and say like, "Yeah, no, I've been studying this thing that's going on. There's apparently a plague that's not like a plague that knocks you out, like it's vampires." He doesn't say it, but he says it does all this stuff. And they're like, "Okay, well, if it's a plague, why do you need us? It seems a little bit beneath our own thing." It's like, well, turns out there's a woman riding with the leader, and she's kind of big and strong and an Amazon. And Exaristos like, "That's impossible. No one else has ever left the island except for me." And he's like, "Well, I'm just telling you what I know." And then a falcon comes in through the window, and he's like, "Ah, yes, I dispatched this falcon when I left my travels. He's brought along a note." Oh, it's just a finger belonging to the Duke of Stanislav. So, yeah, Cain, the leader, and he's taunting us. He knows that he's too strong. We need to get rid of him. And he takes the falcon and breaks its neck. And everyone's like, whoa, dude, what did the falcon do to you? And he's like, I've got this theory that plague can be carried via birds, so it's better safe than sorry. And he throws it in the fire. And he's like, anyway, here's the thing. Sir Easton, I believe you would be perfect for taking on this. Virtue and reason. Exoristos, you know more about the Amazons than anything. Horsewoman, you're here. So either way, we gotta get out there. And they're like, we? And it's like, well, I'm not joining you. I'm old. You guys need to get out there, and you need to take out Cain and his army. And they're like, all right, we'll do it. And he's like, but you may need a little bit of extra help because they are super duper strong vampires. Long story short, you need to go get Etrigan. And they're like, dude, we hate Etrigan. He sucks. He betrayed us. And it's like, yeah, but we need him. So go get Jason Blood and do that. And they're like, all right, where can we find him? And we cut over to the Fortress Gibraltar, where Vandal Savage is sitting on a throne. And he's like, I do enjoy torturing some people. As we see this man bound and gagged as he's being whipped, and he's like, what should I torture him with next, ladies? Should I, let's see if we can find something good. Let's just go for old-fashioned hot poker. And we see that the person bound and gagged is Jason Blood, and he's like, well, I remember that you and Xanadu betrayed me on one of our adventures. That wasn't cool, and that's why I torture you every day now, but all you have to do to stop me is say your magic words. But here's the thing. You regenerate immediately, which is why I torture you constantly, and you can't say the magic words anymore. And as he takes off the gag off Jason Blood, we see that his mouth has been fused together, and he has no mouth, but he must scream. And that's where we leave off. Yeah, it's a big threat. They bring in vampires. That seems like a big enough reason to bring together the Demon Knights again. Sounds reasonable to me. Obviously, some things have happened in the meantime. It's kind of, it feels like an anime time skip, where it's going to be one of those things where so many people have changed in so many different ways, and we're just going to slowly get that backstory filled in of, oh, while you were gone, this happened and that happened. So I'm interested to see what all specifically happened. New writer on the book, Robert Venditti. I mean, it's perfectly fine for this first issue. I don't see any real issues. Clearly, Vandal Savage has started turning more to his villainous roots because, Jesus Christ, that torturing of Jason Blood. So, yeah, I'm interested. I'm into it. I'm going to give this one I'm going to give it a 7.5. I really do enjoy it. I think it's a good start to a nice new arc. Clearly, based off my own personal interest in iVampire, I'm already interested in the vampire arc stuff, so I'm down. 7.5. Love it.